Jai Shila Bhakti Vimala Avadhut Maharaj. Dandavas Maharaj, how are you hearing us?
I can hear you very well, thank you.
Dandavas. So Maharaj, we will be happy to hear you.
Okay,
and hearing some news from you.
Okay, wonderful. So let's see who's here. Okay. Sure. Okay, good. Okay, Vancha Kalptarubhascha, Kripasindu Devacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So let's, today we have English speaking Zoom. Very happy to see non-English speaking people. I think it sounds like a lot of non-English speaking people here, but learning is good. Whether we learn English, Sanskrit, Bengali, the goal is for us to glorify Krishna, to improve our communicational skills, and to go deeper into Krishna consciousness with whatever we, just trying to start my Instagram, with whatever skills we have. So any language has its own, benefit. Like, why do we, speak in English, and why English become, international language? It appeared to be, just England is the island, but we know it's been a big colonial country. But also, English language has unique structure and has, a cryptographical structure, and it's been worldwide recognized for the communication and business. And, in the beginning of the, I think maybe 19th or 18th century, maybe Pavel can, make his own remark on that. Maybe he knows more than I do. As you know, there was language Esperanto, which has been designed by a linguist who thought, well, we do need an international language to communicate. So he kind of used the German, the Spanish, the English words, some Slavic words, and tried to create Esperanto, the language that anybody could speak and anybody would communicate. And because people felt necessity for like a global language. And so there was like a very interesting experiment, and people start learning it, but for some reason it didn't take off. Whether that was economical reason or political reason, we don't know. But one thing we know, that people were searching the language that anybody could understand. So when you go to India, we'll see that one of those languages is dance. Like when we watch Indian dance, some people say, well, it sounds very beautiful. Somebody say, well, it sounds very folk, ethnic. But some people would say, well, as much as beautiful, folk, and ethnic, it sounds like it's not just a dance. It sounds like the possibility of express itself, tell the story. And not only in India, we do know that same approach been used in ballet, like Swan Lake and so many other famous ballets. So that's not, when you go to see ballet, basically you're watching the storytelling with music and dance, but you're not, the language itself has not been used so much, maybe giving people little libretto, little part, what we're going to talk about, or, some music, especially religious music, could be like some expression of mainly, biblical concepts through organ music, with a very classical approach. Sometimes sound very apocalyptic, sometimes sound pretty like heavy to listen. It's very famous. What's that, like Opus 94, something like that, where the part of Bible expressed in organic music, which sounds pretty like scary actually. and most common people cannot listen, but it's a very famous classical expression. So the necessity of developing way to communicate in many other ways besides just very simple lingual expression has been done since time immemorial. But what we understand from Brahma Samhita, Chintamani, Charanabhushana, Mangalami, where Srila Govinda Maharaj would love to describe the spiritual world as the world of Chintamani, where every word every step as a dance and every word is a song. So in art, we know that combining together all forms of arts make a drama. And the drama is most complicated words of art, because if you really look at Indian movie, you'll see that root of ancient culture is still there. All the sound like a Bollywood stupid movies, but you would see in every Indian movie, people would sing, they would dance, they would express love, they would express they would try to express things. All this sound very funny for Europeans, but believe it or not, Indian people will not watch movie where there's no dance, where there's no music. So it has to be there. That's something that touch people's senses must be there. So when we talk about spiritual world of Krishna, that's the urgent, that's the original world, where every step is a dance, every word is poetic, and that's how this world is working. This is the intrinsic nature of spiritual world, where everything combined and an expression of movement, sound, inner movement, external movement, inner feeling, outer feeling. So everything we're trying to achieve in this world through meditation, through art, literature, through way to search harmony, we will find in spiritual world. Therefore, we can say you don't need the senses of material world and spiritual world. Like the physical eyes have limitations. The physical ears has limitations. Like sometimes you can hear the music, but you cannot understand. Sometimes you can see some beautiful, aesthetical, pleasing form of art, but you cannot appreciate that. That's like the drama of this world. The great artist or musician or poet are rarely appreciated by mass amount of people, because you need to have a taste. You have to be a connoisseur. You have to be the connoisseur of taste. So to become a connoisseur of taste, you have to have that taste developed within you. And even in spiritual world, in order to develop that higher taste of Krishna Prem, Krishna consciousness, you need to be connected with that plane of consciousness. Therefore, the urgent of spiritual progress and development is association. Like, why do we associate? We're trying to develop spiritual taste and appreciation. Otherwise, you just, read your books on your own and don't express anything to anyone. Yes, you might get also a lot of inspiration from the books, but sharing with devotees and hearing them and getting part of their heart vibe, this is very important. And we're not just developing spiritual taste by just simply, talking to each other on Zoom. We get together with devotees, we chant songs, we eat prasadam, we worship the deity, we glorify Shri Krishna. And that's how appreciation, internal appreciation is growing. And of course, this is very, very important. So on last Sunday, we had the program in Pyramid House in Los Angeles, and it happened to be that there was not that many new guests. There were mainly, older devotees of Srila Prabhupada and like devotees who practice. So we get together and we start sharing things. And devotees were very highly appreciate all things that I told them. And they said, well, Avadhut Maharaj, where are these old things coming from? And I said, well, they're coming from Govinda Maharaj, Sridhar Maharaj, our gurus. And they said, this is wonderful what we're hearing, because we never heard that stuff in the way that's been said. And we highly appreciate this. And I said, yes, that's true. In order to appreciate Krishna consciousness, you need to have a particular group of people with particular heart inquiry. So you can't just go to anybody and everybody and to start speaking some confidential things or some deep things that is in your heart. You need to have that a group of people that you're able to share and appreciate. And that group that able to share and appreciate will inspire you to speak more. So as you see Krishna consciousness, it's a deep inspiration when one inspires another one. So when we read the Bhagavatam or we go to Chaitanya Charitamrita, what do we see? Like Rupa Goswami would ask questions, Mahaprabhu would speak with inspiration. And sometimes they would speak for hours and hours and hours and go mad and crazy and go deeper and deeper and deeper. And just because one leading another one to this deep expression. So this is how we get connected with Krishna consciousness. That's how we open our heart. Machita madgata pranam bodhayantas parasparam kathayantas chvam nityam tushyanti cham ramanti cham. Yeah, so this romantic spiritual feeling will come through association. And that's what Krishna is confirming in Bhagavad Gita. Machita madgata pranam. My devotees always bodhayantas parasparam. My devotees always glorifying me. So this is a very important part of Krishna consciousness, is to get together and to glorify Supreme Lord. But of course, someone must have feeling, some must have a passion, appreciation. And where you get that feeling, passion, appreciation? From heart of other devotee, just like lovers. You know, when you love the girl, you can speak to her about nothing forever. Like, you know, the husband and wife or girlfriend and boyfriend, they always chat, they always speak very happy. Whatever they discuss, it might be very simple house matter or politics or news. It gives the great pleasure to those who love each other. That's why we're looking for a mate soul. You know, we're looking for a mate soul, somebody who we can easily share and appreciate things. And, you know, it's very difficult to find somebody in this world, but we're still searching. We're still searching. We never stop searching love. We never stop searching friendship. We never stop searching, you know, a deeper appreciation, because that's how we get our own experience. We get to know our own heart through sharing with someone else. And in Krishna consciousness, we have the deepest and the best opportunity to express our own heart, and at the same time, to experience our own heart through Harikatha, through the words of devotees. So this is very special, very, very amazing. Therefore, I'm so happy to share with you guys my inspiration about Krishna consciousness. And that's why we need to speak this language of Krishna consciousness. So whether we speak Esperanto, Sanskrit, Bengali, or English, still the mood, the bhav, and expression is very important. So otherwise, you know, the language itself is just a form. And of course, when we hear Sanskrit and we get to understand a little bit of Sanskrit poetry and specifically the way our acharyas wrote poetry in Sanskrit, unless we start hearing it and getting a little bit to understand what the combination of words, we'll be super impressed, because the poetry itself is art. But the divine Sanskrit poetry it's our absolute art, it's the highest art. So even Krishna himself, when he came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would be so much satisfied by hear some poetry of Jayadeva Goswami or Vichaspati, some great Vaishnava poets. Specifically Jayadeva Goswami, he had a very unique, very interesting life. His life was, I mean, described in there are different ways his life was described. Certain part of his life is described in Bhavishya Purana, certain part described in his biography. But one way or another way, at some point, he stayed in Navadvip. And when he stayed in Navadvip, he was married. He had a wife, Padmavati. And we don't know, I don't think they had children. They were living like sadhus. So his wife was not just like, you know, female partner, consort. She was his editor. She was his inspiration. And Russia would say musa, like somebody who he drew inspiration from. So one time, Jayadeva Goswami wrote some incredible poetry, And in that poetry, he believed he went too far in Krishna consciousness. And because he started expressing feelings of Radharani about Krishna, and he said, well, maybe this is just my own interpretation, inspiration. And, finally he decided, no, maybe that's not appropriate. And he kind of discussed it with his wife. And she said, well, I think it's appropriate. I think it's good. He said, no, I think I went too far. You can't cross the boundary in Krishna consciousness. You have to stay in the boundary. You can't go with your own imagination to Lord and Radha Krishna. This is not a creative process. This is a process of sincere heart revelation. So it's an interesting way that in material world, what motivates artists is ego. The artist mainly driven by ego. Every artist has big ego. In spiritual world, artists are motivated by absence of ego. He's trying to withdraw from his ego as far as he can, and only using his ego to express what is coming through his own heart. But he never think, oh, I'm so great, I'm so wonderful, I'm amazing. Actually, it's opposite feeling that Jayadeva Goswami said. He said to his wife, I might be went too far. I might be cross certain aesthetics and certain spiritual lines. And normally he would come to take bus to Ganga, to swim in the Ganga and come back. And it would take some time. And meanwhile, his wife would cook prasadam. So in Indian tradition, wife, she would eat after the husband. So she would feed the husband, then she would eat after the husband. So he came back. And meanwhile, while he was in absence, Krishna took form of Jayadeva Goswami, and he came to his little house in Champahati, where Navadvip, where they used to stay. And he started speaking with Padmavati during the lunch. He ate lunch. And he said, that sloka that we discussed this morning, and I thought it's too high. Actually, I reconsider this is appropriate. And he gives so many pramana, evidence, that this is the proper way to express love of Krishna and Radharani, and it's all fine. It's very high, no doubt, but the pramana is there, the evidence is there, so I'm not breaching the line. So here's the sloka, I'm keeping it. Because he would write by ink, and he would put to dry on the sun. And if something would be inappropriate, he would delete. But Krishna, who took form of Jayadeva Goswami, he explained to Padmavati, to his wife, yeah, no problem. I think it's appropriate. And during the lunch, she served the lunch, he eat and talk. And then suddenly he said, it was amazing, thank you. Lunch was wonderful. I go take a little rest. So he went to the bed and took a little rest. So then Padmavati, she cleaned the kitchen, she took lunch outside. And suddenly she see Jayadeva Goswami is coming back. And he's very impressed that his wife eating without him. He said, oh, Padmavati, you eating? She said, yeah, you wake up? Yeah, you wake up, I'm eating. He said, no. What do you mean, wake up? I haven't ate, I just came back. I came a little late. I stuck talking to someone, and, I came half an hour late for lunch. She said, come on, you already ate. No, I haven't ate. I haven't ate anything. Then she said, no, well, I just feed you prasada. We just spoke about that sloka. And you went to sleep to the hut. And Jayadeva said, no, I don't know what you're talking about. First of all, the sloka that you and I spoke about, I delete in the morning. And second of all, I told you, I don't think it's appropriate. I think it's too much. Then she looked at Jayadeva. Then she went to a place where he normally would dry his poetry, write sloka by ink and put in the sun. And she brought him that sloka. She said, you haven't deleted anything. Here's the sloka. Then Jayadeva understood it's Krishna taking his form and coming to Padmavati to discuss this, beautiful poetry. And he fell down to the feet of Padmavati and he said, "Oh, Padma, you're so fortunate. The one I'm trying to glorify never appeared to me, but that very same Krishna, with his great, incredible fortune, appeared to you and accept your prasadam. And now I want remnants of your Mahaprasadam." So normally the wife, she would cook, for the husband, and after she would take the remnants. But Padmavati gave that prasadam to Krishna, and then she ate herself. And Jayadeva Goswami was so fortunate, he took that prasadam himself. He took that prasadam and ate that prasadam, and he felt so much ecstasy and cry in tears. And he said to his wife, "You're so fortunate, you're my editor. And you're somebody who can appreciate my poetry, you're somebody I can trust in language, you're way more qualified than I do. But you know what? Why is that Krishna revealed to you, not to me?" And of course, one way that the Padmavati was great devotee. She was great devotee. Second of all, it's Krishna's will. He will reveal whoever he wants to reveal. And third of all, remember, even by revealing himself to some other devotee, it does not mean that Krishna is not giving darshan to others. So Jayadeva Goswami realized that Padmavati very dear to him. So when you want to please somebody, you want to please someone who's dear to him, like let's say if you want to get to the heart of the king, you go to the prince or princess or the queen and you please the queen, and then the king will be very pleased with you. So pleasing somebody who is dear to you is the way to get to the source. So Krishna wants to please Jayadeva Goswami. So he decides a very tricky way to please his wife, whose editor, a pure devotee, and wonderful Vaishnava ladies, Vaishnavi. And in this way, he also deeply pleased Jayadeva's heart. However, Jayadeva was lamenting, like, "I'm trying to glorify Krishna, and Krishna never appeared to me, but he appeared to my wife." So then he knows, okay, Krishna is merciful. He's dealing with my wife, my editor, my life partner. So that's how Jayadeva, it's just one story from one day of Jayadeva, In Russia, there's like a famous book when I read in age of 12 called One Day of Ivan Denisovich. So it's described one day in concentration camp by Solzhenitsyn. But today we just spoke about one day of a pure devotee. Just imagine a pure devotee wakes up trying to do his service and write his poetry and thinking, well, actually it's all useless. I'm a useless man. Whatever I'm writing has nothing to do with truth. It's just my mental imagination. I don't think I'm qualified to be a poet. I don't think I'm qualified to glorify Krishna. His wife saying, no, it's okay. I think it's worth writing. I think it's valuable. Don't think like this, please. Then Jayadeva say, "No, well, I know you're always trying to inspire me. I know who you are. You and I the same. Like you're like my half. You always will try to protect me and save me, but let's be critical. Let's be critical. You are my editor. Be critical to me. I wrote this." And she said, "Well, it sounds like this is very good expression. This is another good idea. And I think this is very much follow with the Bhagavatam and other scriptures." And he would say, "No, I don't think I have enough faith in Krishna. I think I just worship Krishna of my own imagination. And I don't want people to know Krishna of my own imagination because I don't want to be poet. I don't want to be poet. I just want to be devotee. I just want to express proper things. I don't want to make up stories about Krishna." See, because a lot of people, they making up stories out of the ego. Their ambition. "Oh, I'm such a great. Let me tell you some spiritual things." So this is the day of devotee. The doubts, maybe like feelings that I'm not qualified and whatever I do may not reach Krishna. But end of the story, Krishna very pleased with his pure devotees, and he's always trying to inspire and serve his pure devotee. So that's how Jayadev would worship his wife Padmavati, and with the feeling that she has that deep spiritual appreciation of his poetry. Because without the critics, without people who can appreciate art and poetry, the poetry and art would be useless. So therefore, in every museum or library or theater, you have a group of experts. They will recognize which art is the best. Like, if you say, oh, I got a bunch of Picasso paintings, but not every Picasso piece of art is genius art. There's some very common pieces of art. So this is the tradition. When you are dealing with art, you have to define the quality and level of art, the level of poetry, level of presentations. Therefore, some of the poetry been written and books by our gurus are not meant to please us. They're actually meant to please Krishna. And we have to be very careful to choose what we're hearing, from whom we're hearing. Otherwise, it's become, an offensive. We can commit an offense if we start hearing improper for our level. Like in class in school, we have levels. So if something improperly to be heard from improper source, improper Vaishnava, when you say, is there any improper Vaishnava? Yes, there are improper Vaishnavas. Because if Vaishnavas speak for his own prestige, for his own position, he's trying to attract somebody with his own intellectual skills, or he is trying to, speak something very high for a very low audience out of, whatever the motivation could be, then this Harikatha will not give the result that we need. In fact, it can be a negative result. So one time, Gaurakishor Babaji Maharaj was in Vrindavan, and the famous Goswami invited him for the program. And the famous Goswami, who did the Bhagavat class, he was preacher, but as India, many of the Goswamis, they would leave off their preaching. They would give the Bhagavat class, they collect money from people, that's how they would maintain their family. And this is all fine for Brahmana to live by donations and teach people. But if the source of income is become the purpose of your preaching, or I just preach because I need money, then it's just become a business. It's not a preaching. It's just like a doctor. If doctor, creating cure of people just out of, necessity for money, then he's not to be considered doctor. He's a businessman in medical business. The doctor duty is to cure. But in Kali Yuga, we know everything is mixed and everything is lost. So even spirituality becomes source of income, even in India. So when Gaurakishor attended this program in Vrindavan, he understood that he was called for this program out of prestige of this Goswami, because that Goswami have to declare, look, I'm such a great preacher, even the great Mahatma, Siddha Mahatma, like the Babaji Maharaj, they're coming to my classes. So when everybody left, he said to his devotees that came with him, you please wash this place with cow dung. Cow dung, something for purification. And devotees said, well, we just had a Bhagavatam, we heard Bhagavatam class, very professional Bhagavatam class, very, very nice discussion. There were many gentlemen. There was we've got a little prasadam, everything was fine. But Babaji said, no, that was not Bhagavat. I only heard one word, taka, taka, taka. It means money, 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 coins, coins, coins. I haven't heard Bhagavat from that person. So Bhagavat is not just information. Bhagavat, something that coming from heart of devotee, it's Supreme Lord itself. If that devotee who, have some devotion to Krishna, but, mistaken that, all right, instead of I will serve Krishna with my Bhagavad Kata, Krishna will serve me, and I will receive, material financial benefit by exploiting Krishna. That's what Babaji Maharaj meant. He meant wash this place because it's a sinful activity to misuse Krishna consciousness for your own personal purpose. And that's why in Srimad Bhagavatam itself, it describes the Kaitava Dharma. The materialistic Dharma is something that we should be very cautious and conscious that we stay away from it. Like, don't try to earn your living by doing spiritual service. But Krishna will maintain you. But if you will, instead of will abuse Krishna and exploit Krishna and will try to exploit his devotees, his, holy dham, a holy name for that purpose, that is the worst sin. So we have to be very, very cautious about how to associate with devotees, how to preach to devotees ourselves, and how to be in the proper mood. And see, in the beginning is always very easy because in the beginning you have a lot of enthusiasm. And on the end, when you become self-realized souls, it's also not that hard because you're already self-realized souls. So the middle work, the middle path is very dangerous because when you start, you can see from where you start. And when you finish, finish, you can also see, okay, I'm going to finish. But what would be that middle part where you cannot see beginning and you cannot see the end? And you're in the middle. It's very difficult to justify your own position and position of others. And to continue with faith, you do need always spiritual inspiration and guidance, especially when you're going deeper and deeper and deeper. Therefore, it's very important for us to remember all these things. Like Guru Maharaj would bring this idea, very important. He would say uncertainty principle. Like, see, Jayadeva Goswami would never certain what he done has spiritual value. He would need to talk to his wife and other devotees. And of course, he was somebody that at that time poets were so valuable. So the king, like one king, heard that Jayadeva lived in his kingdom. So he thought, well, I need that poet. The kings, they have the money and power, but they need the poets to glorify it and to make their, country, the culture. So every king, he would hire the intellectual, the science, the poets, and it would be like the Mozart. He was brought by Salieri, and Salieri was Italian. And at that time in Europe, the Italians, they were like the gurus of art. So he came to Austria, and he was a genius musician. But the Mozart was way higher position, but very young, deeper genius. But not everybody could recognize who Mozart is. But Salieri, he recognized who Mozart is. He recognized his genius. So that king, he thought, if I just can connect with Jayadeva Goswami, that great poet, that my kingdom will be so glorious. So he heard that Jayadeva is a very renounced person. He lived with his wife. They live like a sadhus. They travel. They stay, in different places. They may go to Vrindavan or Puri, whatever. And at this moment, they're in Navadvip Dham. So they will not see you as a materialist. You cannot come to them. They will reject you. They're the pure artists, the true artists. Then King said, okay, I want to see Jayadev. Let me take another approach. So he took a dress of mendicant and he went to Navadvip. And in a simple dress, he came to see Jayadev. And he said, well, I heard you're a great poet. I'd like to hear some of your poetry. And Jayadev said, who the hell you are? Oh, I'm just a mendicant. I'm visiting Ganga, holy places, so I heard your glory. Then Jayadev could understand immediately, this is the king. So he started cursing the king. He said, well, yeah, that's true. This is a holy place, but the local king, he doesn't take care of this holy place. He only can take care of himself and his family. He doesn't take care of holy places, the temples, the citizens. And very negatively express everything about the king. Although he knew the king is a pious man, but criticized king so much, just testing his ego. Then as he spoke with the king, then king appeared to be a very humble person. In fact, in front of that Jayadev, he revealed his real true humility. And when king revealed his humility and Jayadev tests his ego, remember when you're king, you have a kingship ego, king-size ego, like king-size bed, king-size ego. So the Jayadev, he poked his ego, and finally, when they go deeper into discussion, Jayadev started revealing him Harikatha and preached to him. And king was so satisfied to hear some slokas of Jayadev and poetry and his understanding of Krishna consciousness. He was almost crying, probably crying. Then the end of the story, he said, well, can I come and see you? And Jayadev said, of course, you're king. Of course, you can come see me. But don't come to me with your riches and gold and princes and horses and elephants and soldiers. Just come like this. I will not be able to live in your palace, but I will stay here for some time to have your association. So the king, he would, time to time, just escape with few people, and they would wait for him with the, soldiers and chariot, and he would dress like a white Vaishnava dress. And he would come to Jayadeva Goswami and give him dandavat, and they would have a little association, and they would relish Krishna consciousness. And in a few hours, king would happy come back to his family and to his ministers. And they would say, what it's like to be with Jayadeva Goswami. And king would start quoting the poetry, the stories, the slokas to the queen, to the prince, and everybody would be so happy hearing from the lips of king. So king become receiver of Krishna consciousness, and by circumstance, he's become a giver of Krishna consciousness by sharing his experience. Although he was not a poet, but he had deep appreciation of Jayadeva Goswami, divine personality of his poetry. And that's how he shared Krishna consciousness with his family, with his, close associates. And that's just like we're relishing the story now. So we're relishing the story today about, how to put our little ego away when we're dealing with devotees, how to learn how to appreciate Krishna consciousness and share with each other, no matter how great the source from which we're hearing from. We should try to share this with each other. That will become a great source of inspiration for us. We may not be big preachers. It doesn't really matter. We just have to share. I don't speak perfect English, but I'm trying to share with you in English because that's what my duty is. So, yesterday I was taking some phone calls and somebody said, well, somebody's waiting for you. And I thought, I didn't make any appointment. I didn't expect anybody, but I came down. It was a man. I never saw him in my life. He was about 70 something years old, but he happened to be a friend of a friend who has cancer. And we just talked to him, like, speak with Swami. And, I spoke with him about health, but at the end of the story, I started preaching to him. So he came to me to seek some health advice. And he's a very good man, actually, engineer, a pious man who wants to do some spiritual center in California. I can understand he's a good pious man. And, he's at the age of 77. And I asked him, how long are you going to live? What's your life expectations? And he said, I don't know, 100. I said, are you just want to enjoy life or you want to change? Are you seeking for change or you're like want to extend your life? He said, well, I don't know. I'm already retired. I think I just want to extend my life. I said, well, I got bad news for you. Time passing by very quick. But if you want to use remains of your life and transform and change your consciousness, then welcome. Your cancer is very good disease which will help you to realize mortality. At the same time, your cancer will move you towards doing something you never have done before. Like, learn stuff about health, learn stuff about Vedas, maybe, meditate, pranayama, finally read Bhagavad Gita and other things. And he was shocked, because he came with one purpose. Like everybody needs some, mental support and help. And I heard there's some Swami from India living with some devotees. And, he's a good man. But end of the story, the conversation after 1 hour, he told me, like, you give me like whole new revolutionary approach of meaning of my life. I said, of course. The meaning of life is not just to die happy or die healthy. I said, if you want to die healthy, I'm sorry, it's, it's possible, but you have to become a yogi. We all will die one way or another once. If we become a yogi, then we're not going to die. We're going to leave our physical body because we will concentrate on eternal consciousness. When we're afraid of dying, we're afraid of losing the memories. But actually, I thought a couple of days back, it's a wonderful idea that we're dying and losing the memories, because we're never going to lose spiritual memories, like intrinsic spiritual nature. We're going to lose physical memories. Like, I don't want to die and think like, I own my credit card, mortgage, I own, people, I own, like, I had a bad relationship. Like, like for instance, when we die, Krishna is so merciful, he wiped our memory, the physical memories. Actually, we think physical memories are important, but after realizing Krishna consciousness, we think they're not important. It doesn't really matter how many lives I lived. Was I like rich or poor? It's not important. What is important is, what did I learn about myself and nature of God? This is the most important, essential knowledge, essential experience, I would say. Everything else, who cares? Who cares? Last life I was like a, French prostitute. This next life I was Nazi soldier, and and then I was like whatever, the dog in Beverly Hills. If that is so important. Well, when I was a French prostitute, I was very artistic. When I become a dog in Beverly Hills, I was very loyal to my master, and I thought I own the house and my master is my slave. And when I was a German Nazi and killed Jews in concentration camp, I thought I'm doing the most amazing thing ever for my motherland. Like, it's so funny, but that could be like life after life experience. And like, do you want to keep track of your misconceptions? Do you want to like when you come to Yamaraj, the god of death, like you tell them like, hey, I can show you like your last 100 lives, previous lives. It's fun. It's fun maybe to look at them, but really, is that going to make my day different? I'm not sure. So we went about 45 minutes into discussion. If anybody has any questions or comments.
Maharaj, we have a question from Ratin. Ratin, вы сможете перевести?
You can speak in Russian, I will translate in English.
Дандават, Махарадж и все преданные. Такой вопрос. Ратин переведет на английский. Если люди, практикующие в одном храме, испортили отношения и не могут сотрудничать друг с другом, живя рядом, то как гармонично выйти из ситуации, что нужно продолжать совместное служение? Если пока вариант примириться, он недоступен, и никто не может уступить друг другу. Какой есть вариант еще?
Yes, so sometimes devotees, they start fighting. It's a very natural thing because devotees who live together, they start treating each other based on their imperfections. Like they don't think, oh, because we devotees, we live together and this is the most valuable. They think, well, this guy is not very generous. This person doesn't treat me well. And they start exploring their human nature, and at the same time, they might have fight, or even worse than fight. Let's say a guy and a girl fall in love, and suddenly they realize, hey, we need to create family, get out of temple. Temple is no longer for me. We need to build our own paradise. But in this paradise, I got to get a job, and she has to take care of home, and she does not know how to cook, and I don't know how to get a good job. And then, we live in our mama dacha, there's so many scenarios. And, some of us went through those scenarios. But the spirituality of imperfection will tell us that the reason our ambitions is lack of communications and lack of self-criticism. So if we can communicate with devotees and find appreciation of each other, then in time we can correct everything. Like Saraswati Thakur, he would have Ishtagoshti, and when devotees would fight, Saraswati Thakur would say, let's say there would be both devotees who would fight in each other. And Saraswati Thakur would say, can you say something good about that devotee? They say, of course I can say, he's a great preacher, he's a very loyal devotee. He's like, but he's like, I don't like him, or I don't like what he's done. All right, let's not talk about what bad he's done. Tell me something good. And then another way would be, he would say to opposite devotee, well, what about him? He's glorifying you. He sees good qualities in you. Do you know anything good about him? Of course, they're here. Of course, he's a great devotee. Of course, he sacrificed his life to Krishna. Of course, he's like worshipable. So after this kind of discussion, then ego would be pacified. Say, no, he's not my real enemy. He understands my spiritual qualities. And because of the spiritual growth, that's why we're here. You have to understand, we get to like we're not trying to make money together, although sometimes we do. We're not trying to enjoy together, drink beer, go to sexual exchange, although sometimes do what we do. We're not trying to, share the same property, although devotees sometimes do, they have a place to live. But what we're here for is to inspire each other for spiritual life, which is actually the most important spiritual necessity. Will our spiritual life be perfect? I have big doubts. Like, as long as I'm in Krishna consciousness, and more imperfect I feel like, I feel like sometimes, like, why I'm doing this guru service? I'm a complete idiot. I can't even make a proper decision with my own. But like I spoke yesterday with one devotee, Jamuna Priya, And I explained to her two things. Number, I explained to her position of women in our sampradaya. I think it was very important because she started speaking to me about one female devotee that does very wonderful preaching. And I said, that's good. I said, I like that. But why you're like against that? I say, I'm not against female preaching. In fact, most in our mission and Govinda Maharaj's mission, including yourself, women had a great position. But the problem is the mother never tried to become a father. See, mother has her own position that says, mantra, guru is the father, the mantra is the mother. Mother has stronger position with the child because mother can nourish the child. But when mother trying to become a father, that's where the problems are. And I give her an example. I said, like, for instance, there's a girl named Narayani. I've sent her to establish, preaching center. And she went to Kharkov. She established yoga preaching center. She didn't say, I'm the guru. Or I said, we have a, like Ananga or Haridasi or Subhadra, they're presidents of temple. And they're great preachers and they nourish devotees, but they're not trying to do the guru shtick. See, I said, well, guru means like sannyas Gayatri, like this woman can initiate in Brahma Gayatri, this woman has sannyas mantra. So when you talk about acharya, in our tradition, it's been carried by sannyasis, not even grihastha devotees. Why? Because there are particular rules in Gaudiya Sampradaya. So there were many great women gurus. Yes, there were many great women. Jayadeva Dashi, Jayadeva Devi, Shachimanga Goswami. There were so many great women. We can't even count them all. And they're recognized by Vaishnavas in songs and poetry. But they never try to, replace Rupa Goswami, or they never try to go that route. So now in America, the women, they try to replace men. But that's not, like I said, like, well, you want to be like ugly like me and grow the beard, the girl with beard. Now this is the standard. No, that's not what women are feminine beauty. That's what we worship. And I told this girl, I said, look, who is the guru of Vrindavan? Radharani. She is like, we do follow female. All our gurus in spiritual bodies? They're all females. So we're not denying feminine position, but we also know that Radharani is very humble, very sweet, and she doesn't try to step forward. Balaram, he's doing the guru work in the material world, but in Vrindavan, the realm of love, Radharani is the guru. But look the way she behaves. So that is the feminine power and beauty. And, after expressing myself, this lady understood what I'm talking about. And she appreciated that. So I said, it's not that I'm against women preachers. What I'm trying to explain, what is position of ourself. And then she said, okay, Avadhut Maharaj, I like that. I like everything you said. But what about, I've heard you've done something in Vrindavan. I said, yeah, I've done something in Vrindavan. Yes, I said, I brought a bunch of Russians and Ukrainians to Vrindavan. And I tried to clean and maintain Vrindavan temples of Govinda Maharaj. And I said, after Govinda Maharaj left, very few people barely sent $10 into Vrindavan. Like, think of this, our guru built beautiful temple. In fact, I built with Govinda Maharaj those temples. I was participate with, there may be 80% funded by Russians. We build them. Maybe not 80, maybe 50%, doesn't really matter. But devotees would want to come sometimes to Vrindavan, but nobody thought, this is my guru Samadhi, this is my temples, Sandeep Prabhu is alone, how can I help? All right, I cannot come, maybe I send them $100 for the deity service, worship. Maybe I'll just support them, because when our temples were taken by Gundas, Govardhan temple were taken by local mafia, and they, the local mafia is very powerful in Vrindavan, they call Sandeep and they said, we're going to kill you, your daughter, and your wife if you're going to come to Vrindavan, because he lives in Delhi. He's a Delhi businessman. He's a very good guy. But local mafia said, if you come to Vrindavan and you harm us, this is our property. Then Sandeep called everybody, but nobody could respect I mean, nobody could support him. So I had to tell my guys, and I said, you go to Vrindavan, you deal with local mafia, but don't try to beat local mafia. Make sure that local mafia beat you and you bleed. And capture this on video, that local mafia beating foreign devotees. So the Russian devotees did. They came to our temple. They had local people beat them to blood, and some devotees sadhus. And then they took this to local police, not the Vrindavan police, because Vrindavan police is mafia, to the Delhi police. And they said, that's what happens in Vrindavan. This is what's going on. The foreign pilgrims coming to Vrindavan temples, and they got beaten by local mafia. And then the phone call from Delhi general, and then your local police told them, no, remove. So that's how we got our temple back. So it's required a lot of effort to do service. And sometimes your guru will tell you, okay, you're going to go to Vrindavan and you get beaten. Don't try to be a big hero. We don't need big hero. We don't need news that white guy beat Indian guy. We need news that mafia beating pilgrims and devotees. So this was very painful circumstance for us, but we need to understand that it's not just sitting on a couch talking about Krishna consciousness, how wonderful it is. That's what we need to do. Yes, maybe people imperfect. Maybe in Vrindavan too hot. Now in Vrindavan, 42 degrees. Ratin Krishna asking question. He almost died, from what I understood. He had disease for 3 weeks. He almost died. So you go to Vrindavan, not when it's pleasant, when it's hot. And when it's hot in Vrindavan, you can't even sleep in your room. You don't understand what Vrindavan is like. You're living in, like, there's no air conditioners. You're almost dying during the day. You can't even come out. There's monkeys. There's disease. There's not pleasant food. You have to cook for yourself. So you go there. You have to wake up 4 o'clock in the morning, go to Arati. And when I stay in Vrindavan in January, December, it's like freezing cold. Freezing cold. You wake up, you like from a refrigerator. 4 o'clock in the morning, you wake up because of cold. And you go to Arati and you have to go bare feet with no shoes. It's cold. It's cold model. You're on ice. And you try to chant song, Hare Krishna, and worship the deity. You don't feel amazing ecstasy, but you feel, okay, my Gurudev, Rupa Goswami, all these wonderful devotees, they stay here in Vrindavan. They stay when hot, they stay when cold, they stay with food, they stay with no food. So I'll try to do my best. If I can last here like 1 week, I'm fine. Like I said to, I think it was like after New Year, I just said to like Haridasya, I said, yeah, let's just move to Dwaraka. It was so cold. So we went to Dwaraka and we stayed 1 month in Dwaraka. It was like February. And then I'm like, oh my God, Dwaraka, ocean, Gujarat, ocean, beautiful weather, not cold, not hot, wonderful weather. And, it was a little cold, but not as cold as Vrindavan. And I felt so much relief because I was very sick. And I stayed in Dwaraka and I called Sandeep and I said, hey, come with your wife and child and your daughter and spend like a week with me. So he came from Delhi. It was like freezing cold in Delhi. He came to Dwaraka and we felt like, hey, we're another planet. Because that's how climate in India can be a change. So we spent some time in the holy place of Dwaraka. I spent like 1 month. And I would go every day to Gomati River. And then I would go to Dwarkadish temple. And we made friends with local Brahmas. They're like sending me WhatsApp messages like, Swami, when are you coming? Like they send me pictures and they send me like every week, like, Swami, we're waiting for you. They're very sweet devotees. And I told them, one day you should come to Vrindavan. So I want to organize their pilgrimage to Vrindavan one day. I want them to come and experience the Vrindavan they would never see. Because remember, the Dwaraka bhav is different than mood of Vrindavan. So Dwaraka people, they cannot fully understand Krishna pastimes in Vrindavan. But anyway, so One more. Any other questions?
And before devotees thinking, I have one question from our guest in Saturday. He asking, what should be the product of our spiritual practice?
Or what should be the goal of our spiritual product, or what should be the result? Yes, Krishna Prema, unconditional love of God, which can experience only by the divine soul. You know, when Srila Govinda Maharaj was asked, what are you preaching? Govinda Maharaj was saying, I'm preaching pure Krishna consciousness, pure Krishna bhakti. That should be our goal. And that goal might be considered right now like unachievable. It's like when you go to business, they tell you, what's your goal? I want to become billionaire. Okay, good luck. What about millionaire? How about earning $100? You say, yes, but my goal is to become billionaire. And believe it or not, some people have big goals and they can achieve big goals. And some people say, well, you know, come on, just learn how to earn $100. Yeah, that's the path to become a billionaire, to earn $100. And then how do you become billionaire from start earning $100? And interesting, with one guy, which I follow on YouTube, he's actually right now in Nepal, and he's got into Hare Krishna Association. He posts this in his Instagram. When he is a Muslim guy, but like, I went to Nepal and I met devotees. I'm so happy. I think they're amazing people. And he's a very sincere, very good man. He's a very good billionaire that teach others. And he admit, no one become billionaire because they work hard. People become billionaire because they got fortune, they got good luck. But you have to work hard. Everybody's working hard. So that means we have to work hard on our devotional path. But in order for us to become that spiritual billionaires, to achieve that quality of holy name and lotus feet of Krishna, what do we need? We need the fortune. And where that fortune? That fortune in lotus feet of Guru, Krishna, and Vaishnavas. So obviously we're conditioned souls where we don't have any qualities, but remember, no one become billionaire just because he's hard working in McDonald's. People become billionaire because they got good luck, fortune, met the right people at the right time, had the right stars, got into the business earlier than everybody else. Then the value of the company went crazy. Like, you know, think of this, like you've done an internet, something like Twitter, and then you realize like your company cost $40 billion after 10, 20 years. That's how people, you know, get into the tech. And that's how people, and normally they become wealthy because of the investors or because of the stock market. In other words, you always become wealthy when you have an external capital. It's like not your own savings. You might be able to save by having a job, you know, a few $1,000s or a few $100,000 if you're a successful professional. But that's not how you become a billionaire. So billionaire means an opportunity of fortune, right people, right time, right energy, and that's how you become wealthy. So considering we have very small spiritual wealth we're dealing with, what do we need? A good luck. How to get good luck, it's another story. Just think of this, Jayadeva Goswami expressed to his wife, you're more lucky than I am. Krishna came and took your prasadam. Krishna heard from you. Krishna explained to you the meaning of poetry, not to me. So you're fortunate if you're dealing with somebody who's fortunate. So if you know somebody who's fortunate, that's also fortune. That's how fortune's distributed. So we're so fortunate we're in line of Guru Maharaj, Govinda Maharaj, and, you know, Gaudiya Vaishnava. We could be in line of like yogis or, you know, some Babas or some Sahajas or whatever. All right, guys, so it's 10:09. Let's have a last short question, and I have to switch into Russian Telegram class. Bolo.
Yes, Maharaj, we have a question from Ratin Prabhu. Ratin, please.
He's asking too many questions.
The last question was not mine. Just Narayan asked me to translate, but this question is mine. And when our Guru Dev and Parampara saying about nectar, I am imagine only one cup of some drinking substation, but they saying about the ocean of nectar. How can we understand this ocean, and how can we understand it with our practical life?
Yeah. So think of this. In the world of music and drug, they discovered psychedelics and the drug called LSD. So that drug, that drug is not a drug like, you know, you have to, So that drug is not, you don't have to eat spoon. They take molecular, like micro drop, or let's say, let's give you an example, the poison of kali tsan, tsanisty kali, that what they say is you take the micro dose and you put in a glass of water and you can kill 100,000 people. Or you can take LSD and take a micro drop and, you know, 100 people can get high. Because we're dealing with different quantity, different substance. So when we can say, well, how many people you poison with one cup of tsanisty kali? They say 1 billion. On how many people you can make high with 1 cup of liquid concentrated LSD? They say, well, that's maybe for 20 million people or 10 million people. So when we use our mundane measures, even in chemistry, such as poisons or drugs, we cannot apply because it doesn't comply with vodka, because as Russians, you know, Russians like, hey, how many bottles of vodka I can drink? That's your measure according to your experience. You maybe can drink a glass of vodka or 2 glasses of vodka, a whole bottle of vodka. And, you know, in America, people don't do like that. They drink very little, but, you know, it's a different culture. But still, you know, every form of intoxication has its own measure. Like you can't really come and say, well, give me like a, you know, cup of LSD, or like, give me 5 liters of vodka, I'm going to drink it now, like, you know, one after another one. They say, well, no, you're not going to make it. You're not going to, you're going to die most like your experience will be negative. So if something physical has its own limitations on measure, what about spiritual things? How can we measure spiritual ecstasy? It's unmeasurable. Like, you know, we can't measure. It's another dimension. It's not a reality. So we can talk about, you know, we can explore ideas, what it's like, but, you know, we can never really measure until we try a drop of it. And Krishna is very merciful. Sometimes he gives us little feeling in the heart. So faith, belief, this is the most important thing. It's measured by belief. Krishna Lila Amrita Sar, it's the ocean of ecstasy. You can't even, like, we live by the ocean, we come to see sometimes the ocean so beautiful, but we only can like see a little part of the ocean. Or like we can swim, you know, at 10 meters, 20 meters, or a kilometer, or whatever. So even in this material world, we have limitations and understanding. What to speak about the world of consciousness. So when it will reveal to us by the grace of Krishna, then we can see and experience. Right now, we just have to rely on our own little revelation and heart and faith and Guru and Vaishnavas, and we'll be fine. We don't need the whole complete ecstatic experience. And even, you know, you cannot take all the drugs, you cannot drink all the alcohol, you cannot, you know, whatever they're psychedelic or whatever they are, you still can't experience something with your limited perceptions. So, but if you know, if you experience, then it's another story. Still, no one, like, I'm sorry that I give that example, but I think it's a very clear example. Because why people take drugs and alcohol, they want to transform their consciousness. That's the only reason they do. At least what I did for when I was young. I tried something to have different experience. But one thing stopped me from taking drugs is they're not make you Krishna conscious. Like alcohol, drugs cannot make you Krishna conscious. They cannot provide you the highest spiritual experience. So therefore, it's useless. Therefore, devotees not doing that because they know it's not something that, you know, if there could be some kind of a magic drop which you take and become Krishna consciousness, that would take all day long. Unfortunately, it doesn't work this way. You can only delude yourself with your senses. Remember, we start from art and music and description that in the spiritual world, you've experienced everything by your soul, not by your ears and eyes. Krishna can see with his ears, he can drink with his eyes. And you can drink Krishna's sweetness with your eyes, and you can taste Krishna through your ears. That's why when we get a taste of Krishna, we get into hear, Shravanam, Kirtanam. By hearing about Krishna, that's how we experiencing Krishna. This is amazing. You cannot hear about vodka and experience vodka. But you can hear about Krishna and experience Krishna. Just thinking like a couple of Russian men get together and said, they put bottle of vodka and somebody said, let's start drinking. And somebody, no, let's not drink it. Let's just hear about that. And they speak about bottled vodka all day and they put bottled vodka back in the refrigerator because it has to be cold. And somebody say, why it has to be cold? Well, you know, it's tradition. It's funny, but it doesn't work this way. But in Krishna, you can speak about Krishna, you can hear about Krishna, and you can feel Krishna. That's the beauty of Krishna consciousness. So with this wonderful end of tasting by hearing and experiencing by feeling, I want to switch to my Russian Telegram program. I'm very grateful to all of you to participate in this English-speaking program. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak about Krishna in English. It's very much needed for me. Please forgive my imperfection, my language. You know, I need to speak more about Krishna consciousness, to learn more about Krishna consciousness, to share and improve my language. Of course, you're very tolerant, you're very merciful. And I'm happy to see Maria, happy to see Pavel. There's some other English-speaking devotees there. I'm happy to see them. I'm happy to see Russian-speaking devotees. So I'm switching back to my Telegram for common class, everyday class. And so please stay in touch and let's try to share our hearts and appreciate Krishna consciousness. And of course, you know, like I've said, you know, we're trying to connect and we need an association in order to connect on a deeper level, depth of our heart. So, you know, forgive all my, you know, offenses, imperfections, and I just want to share something with you sincerely from my heart. My Dandavat Pranam. I'm going to the Telegram now, and hopefully those who, I'm just trying to keep the community going every day. So whether 1 class or 2 class or 3 class, it doesn't matter. I just have to inspire the community. And everything I want to speak it's actually spontaneous. I wish I can start describe specific topics, and I will, but at this moment with devotees, my talks are more inspirational talks. I'm not trying to give classes, teach anything. You know, I'm actually a student myself. I have myself necessity to learn, rather teach. So don't take me as a teacher. You know, Swami is going to come and teach me. No, I'm just sharing with you my inspiration about Krishna consciousness, and I wish to learn from you. Your patience, your tolerance, your heart desire to follow Krishna consciousness. This is very important for us. This is the real inspiration, to see devotees in different parts of the world, to pray for them, to feel that we unite by heart. It's very, very important. So my Dandavat Pranam to all of you. Panchakalpatarubhascha Kripasindudevacha Paditanam Paknebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dandavat Pranam.